Hey everyone, you're watching episode 74 of Yield TV. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. It's Monday, February 15th, 2021. Today we are going to do week 8 of DeFi Class. So DeFi Class is a weekly segment we do on Yield TV where we talk about fundamentals to advanced topics in DeFi. And part of what we aim to do is to actually show you live how it all works. So yield bouncers are a really important money Lego that allows someone to maximize lending interest. There's a chance that we'll be talking a bit about yield maximizers in the future, maybe with Idle Finance here. But anyways, we have Matteo, who is the co-founder of Idle Finance. So Matteo's going to be helping me to walk through what is a yield bouncer, how does it work, how can one participate, and basically what are the risks involved with it. So Matteo, welcome to Yield TV. How are you doing?
Thank you, Dad. All good here. I'm glad to be here as well.
Yeah, man. So a little background. I met Matteo probably like a year ago, and so much has changed since then. It's just crazy to see how much you guys have grown because you're over 100 million in total value locked. But Idle Finance was one of the early pioneers of this idea of a yield bouncer. It's just that the market has now caught up a year later. So yeah, real honor just to have you join us again. And I'm excited to sort of walk through all of this with you. Before we get started though on the lesson, let's just give some background. Matteo, how did you get started in crypto, DeFi, and what led you to co-found Idle Finance?
Absolutely. So we started actually working on DeFi and exploring the DeFi applications in 2019, early 2019. But we came into the crypto ecosystem into, I would say, between 2016 and 2017. All the co-founders came into crypto into different moments, but we all came into with the same value. So basically, we saw a different way for the financial ecosystem to manage all the transactions into the blockchain. So I personally started with Bitcoin, making some investments in 2016. And then I remember that I was talking with the other co-founder, one of the other co-founders, William, and we are longtime friends. We were we were in the same high schools. We kind of grew up together, always building stuff together. And I remember him telling me about these smart contracts, and I was like, blew up my mind. I was like, whoa, that's exactly what we need. At that time, I was still concluding my studies in finance and economics, and I was really interested into the financial applications and especially into arbitrage operations. So like when I heard about smart contracts, I was completely excited to start building on top of that. So the first thing that we decided to do was to initially manage our funds through different algorithmic strategies and arbitrage bots. So that's what we started. We started from the scratch, and we wanted to get into like the dark forest in Ethereum and understand what is behind all of that. So we started doing algorithmic trading. We started doing arbitrage operations with PGAs, price gas auctions. So we started like building the backbone of our skills for the Ethereum ecosystem and Ethereum blockchain at that time. And for Idle actually came from one of our needs at that time, because we were building all of these automation for algorithmic strategies and arbitrage bots, but still we got some funds that were actually idle. So we wanted to implement a new yield generating strategy that was for funds that we wanted to keep idle, to keep unused. So we decided to build that for us. We saw that this kind of automation was actually scalable, especially compared to an arbitrage bot. It's not that scalable because you have a fixed size for the arbitrage opportunities.
Right.
But like this kind of automation given by automatically moving funds across different yield generating protocols at that time was still new, and we decided to start talking with the DeFi ecosystem. So we started talking into different chats. We started also exploring to participate into an hackathon. And that's exactly where, like, talking directly with the DeFi audience helped us a lot.
Right.
And so we decided to propose an initial idea of what Idle is right now in April 2019 in an initial hackathon. And then we decided to propose a full implemented idea in July 2019. And that's where it all began, because we won that hackathon, and then we got accepted into Tachyon acceleration program by consensus. So we went to New York, and we had the opportunity to meet with a lot of DeFi players and community, and we started learning a lot from that. But initially, it came from one of our needs as DeFi users at that time.
Yeah, part of the reason we want to do this DeFi class today, here we go, on yield bouncers is, we've all been living through a period of very high gas prices. It's been 4 weeks, I'd say, it's been very brutal. Before that, we had the typical sort of ups and downs. When you go to around 100 Gwei and above, in my opinion, I think it starts to price out a lot of newcomers who are working with smaller position sizes. So part of the reason we want to talk about this is because a yield bouncer is one of the few set and forget type strategies that you can gain exposure to. And so we'll talk through this, but a yield bouncer is essentially, it's a way to bounce your assets to the highest yield. That's where I think the name was coined from. And so anyways, when we talk about that, you think about if you have DAI or USDC or SUSD, something like a stable coin, or any other asset, something that is not stable, the ability to lend it is one of the core use cases in DeFi. So we want to be able to maximize that lending rate. Now, if you go and you compare that, if you compare, let's say, lending rates for DAI across like Aave, Compound, DYDX, BZX, and everything else in DeFi, those rates are all variable rates that are changing, every second. So they're based on the utilization of the pool. So if you start to play a game of chasing yield, or chasing, in this case, lending interest rates that are the highest, I mean, you will burn all of your profits on gas. And so this to me is really clever, because we're pooling our money and then we're making use of the smart contracts, basically batching all that money together and moving it to the highest yield. So we'll talk a bit too about, like, there's a difference between best yield and risk adjusted yield. But Matteo, anything else you think I'm missing there in terms of, like, what is a yield bouncer?
Oh, well, I guess that you provided a really great explanation of what a yield bouncer is. I think that, yeah, one of the main benefits of that is the gas saving that you produce for your users, because if they would have to manually move the funds across all the protocols, they will burn out all their ETH for the gas cost. So that's definitely one of the main benefits of a yield bouncer. Another benefit that I would like to add is that every time that you are moving funds from one protocol to another, you're also kind of influencing the target protocol interest rate. So if this is not, like, for example, a problem for a small investor, but if you have to move a lot of funds, you would have also to compute the right amount of funds that you have to allocate on every single protocol in order to get an aggregated interest rate that is the highest one. This is quite heavy as a computation, and if you cannot, like, build your system to do that, you can use a yield bouncer. So a yield bouncer is solving the gas price problem for moving funds across protocols, but also the computation of the right allocation that you have to do on every single protocol. So
right. And this is, as we're kind of talking about the reason for being, like, why yield bouncers are so powerful and simple. It's one of the simpler money Legos or applications in DeFi to make use of. If you look at the gas prices here, so this is at gasnow.org, and you can look at it across a time frame. So in this case, I'm looking by 10-minute increments or maybe we go by day. But you can see here, we've actually, over the last several months, we've spent most of our time under 100 gwei. So this period from February 1st to now has really sucked. And so this is where, in my opinion, this is where idle finance or any yield bouncer becomes really powerful, because you just don't have to think about it. You know, you don't have to think about moving your money. It's a simple mechanism for holding an asset that is earning the maximum amount of interest. I don't need to walk you through any of this, but you can look literally hour by hour. Like, it's a game. Gas prices really turn DeFi into a game of when can I transact at a lower cost that doesn't eat up all of my profits. So anyways, not talking about ETH2 and L2s that, you know, are really going to help us solve these sorts of problems. Let's talk about the here and now, the reality of like, this is why we're going to talk about yield bouncers. So this might be a good time, Matteo, to start screen sharing. Like, do you mind if you share yours and we'll just kind of walk through it?
Here we go. So
I left out, I'll let everyone know, we're going to spend most of the rest of the time on how to use a yield bouncer through idle. We'll talk about the differences between best yield and risk adjusted, and then we will cover the risks involved, as well as the DAO that runs idle finance's protocol. So here is, there we go. By the way, I didn't ask, do you go by Matteo or do you want to go by Tio? What's your preference?
So the friends usually calls me Tio, which is I'm used to hear Tio.
So we'll go with Tio. Yeah, someone commented in the questions here. By the way, feel free to ask questions along the way. Like I will keep checking comments to make sure we answer those. So yeah, Tio. So talk me through, like, what are we looking at here? This is at idle.finance, so everyone can go check that out there. And yeah, just would love to kind of explore it as like a new user, how I would go about potentially using this.
Absolutely. So yeah, as you can see, you will land on this webpage when you go into idle.finance. The first thing you gotta do is to just go to the dashboard where all the user action will be done, basically. So now I'm already connected with my wallet, with my MetaMask wallet. You can connect with different wallet providers. We actually have two different tracks. One for more new users. So if you don't have a wallet, you can choose a wallet which is easy. And we are doing also improvements on that side, because we got a lot of useful user feedback on that, and now we are restructuring. But still, we have these section for new users. But if you already have an Ethereum wallet, you can choose between different providers. So it's just about like connecting. Now this is asking me to upgrade some of funds that I had in previous version. I have just like a few dollars there. But this is like the dashboard that you will find if you already have some funds, like this test wallet that we are using here. You will see all your, like, the average API that your funds are getting, the total earnings that you got so far, and also the risk score about the allocation of funds of your funds. So we're gonna talk about more about the risk score later. So if you wanna just deposit, let's say, DAI into idle, here I already have like some DAI depositing into idle. But let's say I wanna top up this account, so I just go to manage, which would be deposit for idle, and then it's pretty easy. I just need to choose the amount of money of funds that I wanna deposit into idle, and then you just hit deposit. It's as easy as that. But I want to also point out a thing that we just implemented, which is these batched deposits. So like,
oh, cool. Yeah, talk me through this. This is becoming a trend, so pay close attention to this idea of batching transactions.
Yeah, that's really cool, because yeah, we saw that it was a big problem for our users, because at the time they couldn't be able to get into idle because of the gas price. So for small investors, we decided to build this automation where basically you just sign and deposit into this relayer. It's a relayer, but it's a batch deposit system where all these small investors can batch together. They can pull together their funds, and then we do this execution for the batch deposit 2 times per week. So in this way, we are basically saving about 25% of the gas cost that a normal user that goes into like the normal deposit into idle would afford. So yeah, it's really cool. We're now building the batch redeem system, so on the other side as well.
Yeah.
But it has been really used in the last few months. So it's really interesting to see how like the DeFi community try these kind of integrations, and yeah, that's another like a tool that we decided to implement too.
This has all been very recent. Yeah. So PyDAO has this as well, which you guys were in the same incubator class, right? Yeah, yeah. So it's very clever. PyDAO has this thing called an oven, and instead of baking pies, which are just DeFi indexes through PyDAO, you can do something similar. You mint a pie. This is cool. I hope more can find a way to implement this. This is something at Zapper we've talked about doing, like offering a batched option for Zaps versus just paying whatever it is you're willing to pay to get it through as quickly as possible. So wow, this it sounds like this was planned. I did not realize that you all had implemented that. That's really cool. So back on the best yield strategy, a few of the things like I think we all take for granted, but if you're new to DeFi that you should hopefully appreciate is it's just the total transparency per usual. Everything is auditable on chain. You can see here, this is clearly a front end that's built for Idle Finance's protocol, but anyone could build another front end for interacting with all of these different strategies. And so you can see the amount of money in each pool. You can see the updated APY that's being earned across these. So actually, Tio, can you drop down a sec? I just want to see. So most of the money, it looks like, or more of the money right now, not most of it, more of it is in the USDC pool. That is just yours though, right? Or is that a reflection up above the pie chart? Is that a reflection of all funds that are in idle?
No, this is a reflection of all funds that are into idle. This is my deposit amount. But if you want to like look at the overall statistics of the protocol, yeah, we can see them into the stats page.
Cool.
But yeah, I like that you mentioned that. Yeah, idle is a living decentralized protocol on the Ethereum blockchain, so anyone can actually build a client, a front end on top of that. And we would be definitely happy to see that, and we are incentivizing that because we would like to have multiple sources for accessing the protocol itself. So yeah, definitely other people can build on top of the protocol.
Yeah. Because this was, again, to give more context, a year ago, like a lot of DeFi startups, you all had launched this. And so this was a core team then. And so you've decentralized that control into what is now a DAO. So that's the Idle Finance DAO, which we'll talk about that a bit at the very end here. So, okay, so we've got a lot of stable coins available. And we've got wrapped Bitcoin. And then what are we earning? Oh, wrapped Bitcoin is 1.14%. That's high. Yeah, that's high compared to, I mean, if you use Aave Compound, I don't know if DYDX has it, BZX, just if you go check them out, like you'll see that one is always higher. And that's part of the goal here is for a yield bouncer to bounce your assets to the highest yield. So anyways, if I'm long an asset here, like let's say SUSD, this is a great way for me to set it and forget it, not worry about the gas costs. I'm not being penalized then by the underlying mechanism that is moving my money from pool to pool because of the fact that those are, think of it as like it's shared costs to all of us that are in this larger pool, which in this case, SUSD is like what, 838,000 versus like USDC has 75 million. So really cool.
Yeah, for what we see, there's a lot of adoption of USDC and DAI are the main pools. And DAI, USDC, and USDT are currently the main pools in idle. But yeah, Yeah, so if you like as you were explaining, the cool thing is just to be idle with this kind of yield bouncers. You just have to deposit there, and then you set and forget this solution. You don't have to think about like gas cost. You don't have to think about computing the exact allocation that you gotta do on each protocol. So yeah, definitely.
Before we talk about the risk adjusted versus the best yield, there were a few questions here. So someone asked, I think we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but they said, when will you add new strategies specifically? Can you enable new options like Yearn for yield farming? So I don't know exactly what's coming, but what we're gonna talk about this for sure. How about, is idle audited? And I guess when is the last audit? Where can they find that audit?
Absolutely. So I'm gonna take this question about the audits. So we have gone through different audits. We worked a lot with multiple auditors. We started early, actually. We always wanted to audit our code before publishing anything. We are aware that audits are not like silver bullets, but still it was a way also to show to give a reward to our users that that are going to use idle. So we wanted to have everything audited before actually publishing it and deploying it on blockchain. The current most recent audit is from December 2020, and it was for both the protocol and also the governance module that we just implemented. And you can find it in the landing page for idle. If you go into idle.finance and you scroll a bit, I can show it also as well.
Oh yeah, just pull it up there. It looked like someone also commented, I knew this as well, just wanted to give you the chance to talk about it. You guys have been very thorough with audits along the way. I believe what all the times that I've used it, I've always been able to reference, more recent audits, which is very refreshing in DeFi, especially with what a bottleneck there is to get audited. But here we go. So you've been audited multiple times by QuantStamp.
Yeah, correct. And we work mainly with QuantStamp. We have done some like code reviews and setting up our security procedures with consensus diligence, for example. But yeah.
And a reminder to everyone, we're not saying that just because it's audited that now it's safe and that there's no possible way that there could ever be a bug. Like with all DeFi protocols, applications, anything you use, always assume that there's smart contract risk there that could potentially compromise your funds. However, this is one of the ways that we mitigate that risk by having audits, potentially by buying smart contract cover through like a Nexus or Cover protocol. So anyways, this is great though. This is something that's helpful to know. There was another question here. If I deposit USDC at 17% or whatever it is, am I earning that in USDC and also earning comp and idle? So we should probably talk a bit about the liquidity mining program here, which is where we're earning idle, but can you break down those numbers?
Yeah, sure. So the current APY that is shown is comprise also the comp distribution rate. So it's cool. Also comp as a user, yeah, you will earn comp that you can withdraw when you want. You can either withdraw all of your funds and the governance tokens, or only the governance tokens if you want to do something else with those tokens. And regarding the liquidity mining itself in idle, right now there is a liquidity mining program that is on the protocol. So for the next almost 2 years, there will be a distribution of idle to liquidity providers. So the only way right now to mine idle is through liquidity provisioning. And we have done at the beginning an initial bootstrap period in order to bootstrap liquidity and community. But right now, the program that is on is the plain liquidity mining program for idle, which will distribute for the next 2 years.
Excellent. Okay, so we got that out of the way. Okay, back to the original question of, can you talk through what goes into like risk adjusted versus like a best yield is pretty self-explanatory. It's just let's move to whatever is the highest potential, in this case, lending rate available. What is different about the risk-adjusted strategy?
Absolutely. So let's say that, well, the best yield allocation strategy was the first one that we started developing. Is a long time that we are optimizing it. And yeah, the goal for that strategy is here. When we started like thinking and designing the risk adjusted, we wanted to find a way to still give this feature of optimizing yield, but then also minimizing the risk across different protocols. So what we have done at that time was to start thinking about a risk assessment framework to apply to different protocols. I remember that we got in touch with DeFi Score, which is a product by Codify, Consensus Codify. And what they're doing, which is a really great framework, is a risk assessment framework. So they're taking different metrics from financial risk to technological risk to centralization risk. And then they produce a single consistent score that gives the perception of the risk on that platform. So with the risk adjusted, you can see that on one level, on one phase, we're doing the same thing as the best yield allocation strategy. So finding the best allocation, but then we weight those allocation with the scores produced by DeFi Score. So let's say that CoFounder, the YDX right now has a higher risk score. Well, we are weighting the allocation that the initial algorithm produced in order to minimize the risk if there are platforms that like the best yield is telling to allocate there, but there is a bad risk score. So we are like basically weighting the allocations on different protocols depending on the risk score that they have. This is like the initial model that we wanted to implement in order to give an initial risk differentiation for our users. Right now, we're working also on other more complex strategies to still edge risk on DeFi.
Awesome. Yeah. So remind me again, what was the score then that is like what how high does a score have to be then to be, how high does a protocol have to score through DeFi Score to be a part of that strategy?
So to be a part of that strategy, as far as I remember, should be above the 6 level. So the scale in DeFi Score is from 0 to 10, where 10 is the most secure. And it should reach at least to 6. But then, of course, if there are like, if the strategy has to choose between 2 different protocols, it will choose the higher risk score on that protocol. So you can see that as an initial allocation based on the yield, but then it gets weighted in order to get to the risk score. So
and reminder to everyone too, this is still, I think, less than a year old. So you gotta consider the fact that like setting a score is still new territory. But if you go to DeFiScore.io, this is, I think it's the API that you guys use, and this is where you can look at those scores across different protocols. And I know one of the challenges to this, like if we click into oh, here we go. If you hover over it, you can see like where does the score come from. So one of the things is the limitations of how you update these. And again, it's this typical thing of like, how do you make this fair? But I think it's really interesting. It's been a great way for folks to be able to start to determine the risk involved in some of the different DeFi applications or protocols. So, okay, cool. So we covered that then, Tio. Do you want to talk a bit about the liquidity mining? I can't remember what's the name of the program, if you guys call it liquidity mining, but you are earning idle, which is the governance token. So per usual, we are earning a voice in the future upgrades and proposals of the protocol, this being idle. And so for participating, I'm being awarded this idle token. How exactly does that work?
So, the liquidity mining itself, it's pretty simple. So you just have to provide liquidity to the protocol. So if you are a user, you are already earning idle through your deposit. And that's right now the only way to mine idle. So that's the second part actually of our tokenomics, because as I was saying, we started up with a liquidity bootstrap program where the rewards were a bit higher. So we experienced a more momentum and traction at that time. And then we implemented, and it started on the protocol, a plain liquidity mining program. So thanks to the liquidity provisioning, people can earn idle that can be used then for governance purposes, because idle is a governance and we are really focused on that. We are trying to have the community focused on the governance and votings application of that token, and we're seeing a really great response from the community. Maybe we can talk about that a little bit later with the DAO, but like seeing that people is now like commenting in the governance forum, posting new ideas, starting to brainstorm with us. It's definitely exciting for us, and it's something that we wanted from the beginning, and we're now glad to see that the communities.
Why don't you talk us through that? Because that really the last point we want to make at the end is about risks, and I think folks will be more interested to learn about the DAO first, and then we'll kind of highlight all the things that are top of mind when you're using idle finance.
Yeah, so the really like the last improvements that we decided to implement, the last main release that we wanted to do with idle was to implement the DAO system with the governance token. And something that we believe and we are trying to implement now is efficient organizational structure for the DAO. Mm-hmm. Some of the problems that we observed in initial and first DAO implementation was that all the token holders have to vote on the same bucket of proposals. So you can now like differentiate if a token holder has skills in computer science rather than financial modeling or other type of skills. So what we're trying now to do is to have still this DAO model governed by the idle token holders, but below this top DAO, there will be different division, different structures, organizational structures that we called the leagues structure, that will take care of the day-to-day maintenance of the protocol. So let's say that there can be a league for the development, a league for compliance, a league for treasury management, a league for creating new yield strategies. And right now, for example, we just spin off an initial pilot league that will help us like setting up all the things for further and future leagues that we're going to build. But this is definitely interesting because we are basically merging a completely decentralized governance through the idle token with a set of different professional teams that can work on the day-to-day development of the protocol. And honestly, like if I have to think about 1 year ago when we were building idle and right now, I mean, the governance forum is the perfect feedback machine. As an entrepreneur, you should talk with your customers like every day, almost every day, and multiple times per day. And this governance forum gives us the opportunity to get like first-hand feedback from our users, from our power users and active community members. So yeah, I'm definitely glad to see all of this participation in the forum. And I'm glad to see all the community members that now are studying up in order to propose new ideas, new strategies, new improvements.
Yes, so reminder to everyone then, you can go to idle.finance /hash/governance. And then here's where you would connect your Ethereum wallet. There's the proposals that you can read through here, which it looks like there's been 3 of them executed. You can delegate your votes. So if you are using a yield bouncer and you earn the idle token, you know, you can, I think something that I've done with Compound in the past is I've delegated those votes because I just wasn't paying close enough attention, but like clearly want my idle votes to, or my comp votes to go, towards the right vote. So I delegated it to someone, and yeah, I mean, pretty typical sort of setup here. I think what's really interesting to me that I wanted to ask you about is, just how different is it? Like, how has your role changed? Because you were a co-founder, a part of like a small core team, like a lot of DeFi teams that, start up, but now you have a whole community behind you, thanks to, tokenizing a protocol. So I guess can you just tell me a bit about what's your day-to-day like now? Like, you clearly spend a lot of time in the forum, you're talking to users, but I mean, do you feel like you have more help, or is it just like a different new kind of chaos to handle?
So, well, if I have to think about like 1 year ago, where we were like more traditional startup, a traditional team that were working on that was working on a product. Well, yeah, I mean, there is more things that now we have to think about. We have a governance forum and a lot of new proposal that comes up almost every day that we need to take care of, we need to think about, we need to discuss with the community. So of course there is a little bit more of like effort that we need to dedicate to that. But yeah, as I was saying before, I mean, this is the perfect feedback machine. And if I have to think about that, I would like dedicate part of my time and even like my free time to the forum in order to hear what the community is asking for, because that's fundamental for a core team to understand. And on the day-to-day maintenance, on the day-to-day work that we have to do, well, we obviously introduced in our working routine the governance forum and also talking directly with some community members. And now that also we are spinning off the pilot league, which is the first form of a league structure in DeFi, we are adding also that kind of effort from the team. But on the other side, I think that it's changed in the way that like every day I'm waking up and I can find something new from the community that suggested us something, like a new model that for staking that we could implement, a new partner that we can get in contact with. So I honestly feel that there is more effort on our side that we need to dedicate to this thing. But on the other side, there is a lot of value that is bring from this kind of governance, because yeah, having directly the user telling you what's their feedback and like the live feedback from them is definitely useful. And we are seeing a lot of value from that, and it's helping also a lot when, like, especially in DeFi, which is a highly experimental space, having also the community on your side that is telling you, yeah, that's something that we really would like to have in Idle. It's something that can give to a DeFi team the right knowledge to go to the right path. So I would say that, of course, it's a little bit more chaotic, but it's a great value. And I would suggest to any DeFi founders to start having this kind of conversation with your active community members.
Very interesting. I have one last question from someone who's watching here. Really, it's just about like what's next. They were asking here, will Idle always be yield bouncer, or is there something else coming up? There are questions earlier about like, would there be something similar to like a Y Vault by Yearn? Anything you can share about that folks can look forward to?
Yep. So on a general terms, we are going to add more strategies and assets. That's something that we already like. It's already decided by both community and the team. So we want to add new strategies and assets. Something that I can already disclose with you guys is that well, we have been talking a lot in the forum about tranches strategy, which can be interesting both in order to introduce a new type of strategy into idle, but also to provide a new way to hedge risk for DeFi users. So you can see that as a sort of like continuation of the risk adjusted allocation strategy, or an evolution of the risk adjusted allocation strategy. And something that we're working right now is the implementation of new assets, and pretty soon it has not been disclosed publicly, I guess, but has been discussed in the forum. So if you wanna dig into it, you will find it in the forum. But we're gonna add one of the most liquid assets in the Ethereum blockchain, and we will continue with evaluating other assets in the future.
Very cool. What is that asset that's being discussed in the forum?
Well, it's most liquid in the DeFi ecosystem, which is basically ETH.
ETH. Oh, okay. Yeah, duh. Yeah, that makes sense. This is another thing that I love about DeFi is anytime someone asks me, like, where are you getting XYZ information, or how are you learning what's going on? I'm like, it's all in Discord. It's all in Telegram, but they're all open forums. So, I've always felt like, I remember when I was new in around 2017, and a lot of this information wasn't being well disseminated. And I do remember as a new user, I wasn't jaded about it, but I just thought, like, there's clearly a lot of information that's just not available to the public. Now it's refreshing. I myself, I know I try to discuss anything in open Discords, because that way anyone can be a part of the conversation, and anything that doesn't have to be discussed in terms of a private partnership. So cool stuff, just to learn that your guys' forum is so vibrant. Well, I want to remind everyone, make sure you check out Idle Finance at idle.finance. The recording of this will be up shortly at tv.zapper.fi. You want to follow Tio and Idle Finance on Twitter. If you go to Idle Finance and just click on Contact Us, it'll take you to the bottom of the screen, and there's a Discord link there. Actually, you guys have a Telegram and a Discord, or is one the primary?
Well, that's a good question. We have both of them, but actually we are focusing more for building new stuffs and discussing for building new, implementing new features on Discord, and Telegram is most for like community conversation and announcements mainly. So
very cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, and if anyone's interested too, they have a page on idle.finance that allows you to track stats of just how much money's in the protocol, all the usual stuff that you want to learn about in terms of where money is being lent and how much that is. You can also go to DeFiPulse.com, and they are number 23 on the list with 118 million, which is nuts. So otherwise, Tio, anything else you wanted to share before we go? I appreciate all the time you took here to kind of walk us through the lesson.
Yeah, it was an honor for me, and just want to share that if also the governance forum, which is at gov.idle.finance. And please check it out and leave any comment and feedback if you are a user of Idle, or if you're a prospective user for Idle. Feel free to jump into the forum. We are waiting for you there.
Awesome. Check out gov.idle.finance. There we go. They can learn more there. And yeah, everyone, thanks for tuning in. Tomorrow we will, let's see, tomorrow, do we have an interview? No, we don't. It's going to be Wednesday. And Wednesday, we are going to be interviewing the Charged Particles team. So it's all about basically linking ERC20s or Ether or NFTs with an NFT. So it's going to be a really interesting conversation. Just everyone loves NFTs, and we kind of see the future of mass adoption with NFTs and digital collectibles. This is a way to tie like an interest earning token from Aave to an NFT, or you could deposit Ether into a piece of digital art. So pretty cool stuff. But Tio, thanks again, man. I'm going to hit the outro video on this. And oh, shoot, wait, there was one last question. Sorry. DJ asked, I just noticed there is a 10% performance fee. Does that mean if I take 1,500, if I make 1,500 profit, 150 is taken out for protocol fees? Yeah. Anyways, can you clarify how that works?
Yeah, the 10% performance fee gets charged on the profit that you made on the protocol. So yeah, that's cool. If you make 150,000, yeah, you will get 150 out from as a performance fee. So yeah, it's 10% the gain that you're getting from the protocol.
Cool. Oh, and someone else asked, Johnny was asking, is there a mobile app coming anytime soon?
So the website is actually optimized for mobile version. So for example, if you're using the MetaMask mobile app, it's optimized for the mobile. We don't have plans right now for a mobile application which is like built from idle, but yeah, we will evaluate in the future if there is enough demand for this kind of application.
Very cool. Well, thanks so much for your time, Tio, and tell the rest of the team I said congrats. It's insane to see all the progress you've made in just the last year. So everyone, thanks so much for tuning in. Make sure you go to Zapper.fi to track your DeFi portfolio. You can trade at Zapper Exchange. You can use all of our DeFi shortcuts called Zaps at Zapper.fi/invest. And then you can farm your yield at Zapper.fi/farm. And otherwise, have a great day, everyone. Stay safe.
See ya. Bye.